What a time to be alive. There are so many new and innovative cameras available and more being released every day. The Osmo Action versus the Osmo Pocket. Which one's a better vlogging camera? Well, I'm going to tell you my opinion of that right now. Thanks for clicking on this video. Clearly you're a highly intelligent individual who can recognize compelling content when you see it. If this is your first time at my channel, I make travel videos and tech reviews about the equipment that I use to make those travel videos. If this sort of stuff interests you, why don't you consider hitting that subscribe button down below. Upon its release, just about everybody and their brother made a review or some sort of video about the Osmo Action. Most of these videos came out the day or two after it was released, or they had their hands on the camera. I saw videos mostly comparing this camera to the GoPro Hero 7 Black, but I even saw videos comparing it to a Sony a7 III on a gimbal. That's not my style. I prefer to take a more measured approach. Actually use the camera for a little bit. I've had the Osmo Action for about a month now, and I think I'm in a position to make a more accurate assessment of what I think of the camera. In this video, I'm going to tell you about two amazing, although different cameras, so you can hopefully make a decision on which one you think would be right for you. These two cameras, both made by DJI, individually have some strengths that would make them a viable candidate for a vlogging camera. However, they are both completely different animals. The Osmo Action, as its name suggests, is a true action camera that's taking aim directly at a market traditionally dominated by GoPro. The Osmo Pocket, on the other hand, it's more of a cinematic all-around camera, but definitely not designed, in my opinion, to compete with GoPro or other action cameras, although you'll probably find thousands of videos on YouTube comparing this to the GoPro when it first came out. So in this video, I'm not going to compare these cameras solely based on technical specifications. I'm going to talk more about their pros and cons as they relate to using either of these cameras as a vlogging camera. So we can start out talking about some of the differences between these two cameras. First thing that I think we should talk about is the size of the cameras. The Osmo Action has that traditional GoPro action camera size, and it's nice and small, and it serves its purpose well as a compact camera. The Osmo Pocket, on the other hand, is a completely innovative and different design from anything I've ever seen before, and it truly lives up to its name and will fit in your pocket. Both of these cameras have very intuitive touchscreens and controls that are very easy to learn and master. No matter which camera you get, in a matter of a few times using it, you'll have the controls mastered. The Osmo Action has a very unique feature in the fact that it has a front-facing selfie screen, although this is not touch compatible. This front-facing screen is super helpful when trying to compose your shot or just monitoring your exposure in general. Pretty good job, DJI. As far as size and form goes, I'd call that a tie. Both cameras are very small and portable, and their controls and functions are very easy to learn. As far as durability goes, hands down, that goes to the Osmo Action. This thing's waterproof up to 36 feet, and it's just overall build quality, it feels like it's built like a tank and it could take a beating. Now the Osmo Pocket, it's no dainty little flower. It definitely holds its own with regards to durability. However, it's just not waterproof, and it is a gimbal on here, so you've just got to be a little bit more careful with it. Definitely not going to be durable. Next thing I want to talk about is image quality on these two cameras. Both of these cameras share, in my opinion, what's probably the same 12 megapixel internal sensor. So they're both capable of shooting 4K up to 60 frames a second, and so the Osmo Action has a very wide field of view, capturing 145 degrees at a 2.8 aperture, so you really get a lot of your environment just here holding it at arm's length. The Osmo Pocket only has an 80-degree field of view, but a slightly wider aperture at f2.0, which definitely gives it a slight advantage in low light situations, but more on that in a little bit. Additionally, the Osmo Action has a de-warp mode, which reduces that traditional fisheye look that you get in most action cameras. It's a really nice feature, and it gives you a much more natural looking picture when you're using this camera for vlogging. As far as looking just solely at the field of view and the image quality out of the camera, I'm gonna have to give that initial advantage for vlogging to the Osmo Action. But that's not the whole story as far as when it comes to just selfie mode and field of view. One of the biggest differences between these two cameras is how they achieve focus. The Osmo Pocket has what's called a depth of field, so it can focus on a specific subject while having the background slightly blurry. Some of the initial criticisms of the Osmo Pocket when it first came out was the contrast-based autofocus was having trouble figuring out what was the subject and what was the background, so it would constantly pulse in and out, and occasionally you would end up with your background in focus and your face or your subject that you were recording was out of focus. And with the tiny screen on the front of the Osmo Pocket, it's really hard to see what is or isn't in focus. There have been numerous updates to the Osmo Pocket since it's released, and in my opinion, these firmware updates have resolved this issue. The most recent firmware update that was just released today includes phase detection autofocus, which is similar to what's in the Canon EOS M50 that I'm recording this video on. I haven't had a chance to really test it much yet, but if this thing works half as good as the M50, we have solved all of our autofocus issues with the Osmo Pocket. Now the Osmo Action, it achieves focus in a much different way. It has what's called infinity focus. So once you're a certain distance away from the camera, everything's in focus. The background, the subject, everything is in crystal clear focus. There's good and bad about this. The good thing is you never have to worry about if you're in or out of focus, which is great for an action camera. The bad thing is if you want to just isolate your subject and get that more cinematic look, you can't achieve that with the Osmo Pocket without doing some serious work in post-production that's really not worth it in my opinion. So as far as the autofocus and depth of field, in my opinion, I'm going to give the advantage to the Osmo Pocket because I really enjoy that depth of field and creating the more cinematic looking videos. Both cameras have really nice features that you can switch into a pro mode that allow you to control the exposure based on the shutter speed and the ISO. Additionally, both of these cameras include what's called a Cine D picture profile, which gives you out of the camera initially a little bit flatter picture profile and desaturated, but when you take it into your editing software later, you're able to increase the dynamic range of the photo and really do a little bit more with color grading. Next thing to talk about is stabilization. Both of these cameras have fantastic stabilization, although it's achieved in two completely different ways. The Osmo Pocket uses a 3-axis gimbal to achieve its stabilization, while the Osmo Action uses electronic image stabilization that DJI calls rock steady. While both of these cameras perform remarkably well when it comes to stabilization, I have noticed a few circumstances that the Osmo Action does suffer with its stabilization. First off, the Osmo Action achieves its electronic image stabilization through software and an included gyroscope that's inside the camera. The gyroscope works much like your cell phone, how you can change the orientation of your screen when you tilt your phone because the gyroscope tells the software that the phone's been turned. Same thing works on the Osmo Action, that as the camera moves, the gyroscope communicates to the computer inside and tells it to counteract that movement through the software. The software counteracts this movement through adjusting the shutter speed while you're recording on the camera. So what I've noticed is that when I manually set my shutter speed to a fixed shutter to achieve that more cinematic footage, that I get a weird jittery thing going on in the background here. I suspect that I'm getting that jittery look back there because I'm hindering Rocksteady's ability to work to its maximum effectiveness by forcing the shutter speed to stay at a constant. Honestly, I've dealt with this problem by just shooting more in automatic mode with this camera. I just set my ISO at a maximum, which is usually around 1600, and just let the camera do the rest. And I'm getting pretty good results by doing that. The second area I've noticed the stabilization having problems is in indoor or low light situations. For some reason, the camera gets all wonky and does weird stuff with the stabilization when I'm in low light situations. In general, the low light performance on this camera isn't very good. However, it is an action camera and most action is designed to happen outside, so I won't beat it up too much for that. The Osmo Action's stabilization is buttery smooth no matter the circumstances. Sure, it's got a small sensor, so it's not the beast of low light camera. Regardless of whether or not you change the shutter speed or what, no matter the lighting conditions, you get the same smooth footage because you're using the 3-axis gimbal. So it kills me to say it, but I'm gonna have to give the advantage for stabilization to the Osmo Pocket. Now that doesn't mean that this Rocksteady isn't ridiculously good stabilization in the right condition. But for me, overall, I feel like I've got more stable footage that doesn't have weird background stuff with the Osmo Pocket. The next area I want to talk about is the sound. As far as action cameras go, both of these cameras have decent and generally usable onboard mics. I'll call them usable, but in my opinion, they're not very good. A couple months ago, DJI released a 3.5mm audio adapter for the Osmo Pocket that plugs down in here into the USB-C port. This is a game changer as far as audio for vlogging. It allows you to use any external microphone that has a 3.5mm input, and you can attach it through various third-party accessories to the exterior of your Osmo Pocket. Unfortunately, this same 3.5mm audio adapter will not work in the USB-C port on the Osmo Action. For some reason, they didn't build it in and make it compatible. There's no word from DJI on when or if they're going to release an audio adapter for this camera. However, I wouldn't mind if they just did a firmware update and let me use the one I already bought. But I seriously doubt they're going to do that because why would they not make me spend another $50 to buy one of these that only works with this camera? So far for the sound, the advantage is going to right now have to go to the Osmo Pocket. However, if a 3.5mm adapter is released for this, that could change things. The last thing I want to talk about is what accessories are available. Let's say you choose one of these cameras and you buy it. Now you have to accessorize it and get tripods and microphones and cases and different ways to mount it. Well, which one of these cameras has more accessories available right now? Both of them, for making vlogs, have quite a few options available. DJI has very slowly released quite a few accessories for the Osmo Pocket. Most notably was the previously mentioned audio adapter, which was a big game changer for me in as far as vlogging with this camera. I'm still waiting on DJI to release their extension pole that they've showed. Basically puts this camera on a selfie stick, but allows you to have the controls in the handle of the selfie stick. I'm interested in seeing when that comes out. Again, no word from DJI when or if that's ever going to come out. The Osmo Action has far fewer accessories available from DJI at this time. However, don't let that fool you. There are still a lot of accessories available for this camera. Pretty much any accessory that works on a GoPro works with the Osmo Action. Sure, this cage is proprietary, but it comes with that. After that, all of these mounts that you used on your GoPro mount right to the Osmo Action. So the number of accessories out for this are almost unlimited. GoPros have been out for years, and there is a ton of third-party companies that make very affordable accessories. Very nicely done, DJI. Very nicely done on that. So which one of these cameras is going to be better for vlogging for you? Well, that's going to depend a lot on your needs. Like I said at the beginning of this video, what a time to be alive. There are so many cameras available out on the market today that allow you to make videos, that I'm able to make videos like this, nitpicking two fantastic cameras. So both of these cameras have their strengths and weaknesses. However, I currently prefer the Osmo Pocket as my vlogging camera. I prefer the depth of field and focus that you get with it. I feel it makes a more cinematic looking video, as well as that audio adapter. To me, audio is more important than the video in the camera, because if you can't hear, it doesn't matter if you've got an 8K video. If the audio is crap, you're gonna click right off of that thing. Now, if you prefer the background to be in focus in your videos, maybe the Osmo Action is the better choice for you. Like I said initially, the microphones are usable, they're just not the best. And when DJI releases that audio adapter, that could be a game changer as far as making this your vlogging camera. Overall, like I said, I just prefer the cinematic feel I get out of my Osmo Pocket. Plus, my vlogs aren't exactly a Michael Bay action film. So if your idea of an action sequence in your vlog is jumping on your one wheel, riding to your favorite craft coffee roaster, picking up a latte and an avocado toast, maybe the Osmo Pocket is the better choice for you. On the other hand, if your vlogging style includes a lot of outdoor activities and you take it on hiking adventures and action sports, clearly the Osmo Action is the winner for you in your vlogging style. Bottom line, both cameras are viable options for vlogging. It just depends on your specific needs. Hey, why not just buy both? That way you have the best of both worlds. My small, lightweight vlogging kit includes both of these cameras, and it's been no problem at all to combine the footage in the same video. Editing and matching with the colors is a breeze. So the Osmo Action or the Osmo Pocket? Which of these cameras do you think's better for vlogging? Make sure to leave a comment down below and tell me what you think of these cameras. As always, thanks for watching. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you leave, and give this video a thumbs up if you liked what you saw. We'll see you next time. Bye.